Chapter 19, A Love Beyond Magic. In the days following their reconciliation in the enchanted garden, Elliot found himself consumed by a singular thought: how to show Paige the depth of his love and commitment without relying on magic. He wanted to prove to her, and to himself, that their connection transcended spells and enchantments. After much contemplation, Elliot hatched a plan. It would require effort, planning, and more than a little help, but he was determined to make it perfect. For once, he would create magic without a single incantation or wave of a wand. Elliot began by reaching out to those closest to them. He called Maggie, explaining his idea and enlisting her help. Maggie, always a romantic at heart, was thrilled to be part of the plan. She suggested involving Jasper as well, knowing his organizational skills would be invaluable. Next, Elliot visited Abigail at Beanstalk Bistro. The wise old woman listened to his plan with a knowing smile, her eyes twinkling with approval. "It's about time," she said, patting his hand. "I'll close the bistro for the day. We'll need the space to prepare everything." With his team assembled, Elliot set to work. For days, he pored over his memories of his time with Paige, writing down every significant moment, every shared laugh, every tender exchange. Each memory was carefully transcribed onto a note card, his usually messy handwriting painstakingly neat. Meanwhile, Maggie and Jasper scoured the town and surrounding countryside for flowers. They visited local gardens, wild meadows, and even the roadside, gathering a diverse array of blooms. Roses from Mrs. Henderson's prized garden, daisies from the park where Elliot and Paige had shared their first magical picnic, even dandelions from the library lawn, each flower was chosen with purpose and care. Abigail's bistro became a floral workshop. Tables were covered with flowers, ribbons, and vases. The air was thick with the scent of blooms and the quiet concentration of friends working together to create something beautiful. On a quiet Sunday morning, when the library was closed to the public, Elliot put his plan into action. He arrived at dawn, arms laden with flowers and heart full of nervous excitement. Maggie, Jasper, and Abigail were already there, ready to help transform the library into a floral wonderland. As the sun rose, casting its golden light through the library windows, Elliot and his friends worked tirelessly. They placed vases on tables, draped garlands over bookshelves, and tucked small posies between books. Each arrangement was accompanied by one of Elliot's handwritten notes, carefully placed to guide Paige through their shared history. By mid-morning, the library had been transformed. Every corner held a new surprise, a fresh burst of color and fragrance. Elliot stood in the center, surveying their work with a mixture of pride and nervousness. This was more than just a grand gesture, it was a promise, a declaration of love spelled out in petals and heartfelt words. As the appointed time drew near, Elliot's friends wished him luck and quietly slipped away. He was left alone in the flower-filled library, his heart pounding with anticipation. Meanwhile, Paige had received a mysterious note that morning, asking her to come to the library. Curious and slightly puzzled, she made her way there, her mind racing with possibilities. As she approached the library, she noticed something unusual. The path leading to the entrance was lined with an assortment of flowers, not the perfectly uniform bouquets one might expect from a florist, but a charming mix of wildflowers, garden blooms, and even a few dandelions. Each step revealed a new variety, a rainbow of colors and textures that brought a smile to Paige's face. Intrigued, Paige unlocked the library doors and stepped inside. What she saw took her breath away. The entire library had been transformed into a floral wonderland. Every available surface was adorned with flowers, vases on tables, garlands draped over bookshelves, even small posies tucked between books. The air was filled with a symphony of fragrances, from the sweet scent of roses to the delicate perfume of lilies. But it wasn't just the flowers that caught Paige's attention. Attached to each arrangement was a small note card. As she moved closer to examine one, she recognized Elliot's handwriting. "Remember our first meeting? You thought my painting had come to life." In a way, it had, because the moment I saw you, my world became more vibrant than any artwork could capture. Tears pricked at Paige's eyes as she moved through the library, reading note after note. Each one recalled a special moment they had shared. Our first magic lesson in the park. You made dandelion seeds dance in the air. I fell in love with your laughter that day. The night we chased enchanted cupcakes around Beanstalk Bistro. Your joy in the face of chaos made me see magic in a whole new light. When you comforted me after a spell went wrong. Your strength and compassion showed me that true magic lies in the heart. As Paige reached the center of the library, she found Elliot waiting for her. He stood nervously, his hands clasped behind his back, surrounded by a sea of flowers. But what struck Paige most was the absence of any magical aura around him. This was Elliot, pure and simple, without any magical embellishments. Elliot, Paige breathed, her voice thick with emotion. What is all this? Elliot stepped forward, taking her hands in his. Paige, he began, his voice trembling slightly, I wanted to show you that my love for you isn't dependent on magic. Every flower you see here was picked by hand, every note written without a spell. Because you deserve effort, not just ease. You deserve sincerity, not spectacle. He gestured around the room. Each of these flowers represents a moment we've shared, a piece of our story. Some are beautiful and perfect, like roses. Others are simple, like daisies. And yes, there are even a few weeds mixed in, because every relationship has its challenges. But together, they create something more beautiful than any magical illusion ever could. Paige felt tears rolling down her cheeks as Elliot continued. I've realized that the most powerful magic in my life isn't in my spells or enchantments. It's in the way you smile when you're lost in a good book. It's in the sound of your laughter when we're being silly together. It's in the warmth of your hand in mine as we walk through town. Elliot took a deep breath, his eyes never leaving Paige's. I love you, Paige. Not because you've learned to accept magic, but because you've taught me to see the magic in everyday life. And if you'll have me, I promise to choose you over magic every day. To work at our relationship with the same dedication I've given to my spells. To create a life filled with wonder, both magical and mundane, together. For a moment, Paige was speechless, overwhelmed by the depth of emotion in Elliot's words and the beauty of his gesture. Then, with a sob that was half laughter, half cry, she threw her arms around him. Oh, Elliot, she said, her voice muffled against his chest. This is the most magical thing you've ever done. Elliot held her close, his own eyes glistening with unshed tears. So, is that a yes? He asked softly. Paige pulled back just enough to look into his eyes, a radiant smile spreading across her face. Yes. 1,000 times yes. I love you, Elliot. Magic and all. As they sealed their promise with a kiss, something extraordinary happened. The flowers around them began to glow softly, their petals shimmering with a gentle, otherworldly light. But this time, it wasn't Elliot's magic causing the display. Paige, Elliot gasped, looking around in wonder. Are you doing this? Paige shook her head, just as amazed. No, I don't think it's either of us. They both realized at the same moment what was happening. This was wild magic, the kind that exists in the world independent of any wizard's spells. It was responding to their love, to the pure joy and connection they shared. As they stood there, surrounded by gently glowing flowers, Paige and Elliot understood that they had discovered the truest magic of all, the magic of love, of choosing each other every day, of finding wonder in the simplest moments shared together. Overwhelmed by emotion, they spent the next few hours wandering through the library, reading each note, sharing memories, and adding new ones. They laughed over the recollection of their magical mishaps, shed a few tears over the challenges they'd overcome, and marveled at how far they'd come. As the afternoon wore on, they found themselves curled up in Paige's favorite reading nook, surrounded by softly glowing flowers. Paige rested her head on Elliot's shoulder, feeling a sense of peace and rightness that she'd never experienced. They parted with whispered, "I love you, S," and the knowledge that tomorrow would bring a new chapter in their magical love story. As Elliot walked home, a trail of softly glowing flowers sprouted in his wake, a testament to the enduring magic of true love, blooming eternal in the heart of stardust.